Good afternoon, everybody who are watching along with us here on Flow Racing. I'm Eric Brennan, and welcome to what will be the fifth race of the 2022 Smart Modified Tour, powered by Pace-O-Matic. As you can see, it is an absolutely beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Callaway, Virginia. Temperature right now just over 60 degrees, and we are very excited to be bringing you this upcoming racing action here on this fast 3/8 mile oval. The cars have now fired up, and they are making their way onto the main straightaway in the formation in which they redrew the top 10 starters. If you weren't with us earlier, we saw Brandon Ward win the Pace-O-Matic pole for the first time in 2022. However, the redraw is going to take Brandon Ward off the front row, and the field will come into the formation on the main straightaway before we are ready for today's command and to get set for what is not a 99-lap race. No, this is the second year that we have run the Kenny Minter Classic. And if you're unfamiliar with Kenny Minter and his racing history, he was the 1993 Smart Modified Rookie of the Year and was truly coming into his own as a modified racer. Well, unfortunately, we lost Kenny Minter back in 1995 at Callaway at the tender age of 39 years old. His legacy lives on in many ways, including with the Smart Modified Tour. As a matter of fact, his son, Kenny Minter Jr., a well-accomplished crew member on the number 2 car of Brandon Ward, who quite fittingly set the quick time in qualifying just a short while ago. Today we honor Kenny Minter and his racing legacy by running 110 laps, as a number 10 is what adorned the side and top of his race car throughout most of his racing career. And the track here has come in full swing as far as paying tribute to Kenny Minter and his family as well. And that is the reason why today's race will be 110 laps in distance here at this 3/8 mile oval. We talked about the racetrack a little bit earlier on as well, the fact that it is 3/8 mile in length, but boy is it fast, and it's actually misleading how banked the front and back straightaways are. As a matter of fact, it seems as though that turns 3 and 4 are banked a little bit steeper than that of 1 and 2. Estimates give us about 4 degrees difference. We believe that turns 1 and 2, the south side of the Speedway, is about 14 degrees or so in banking, while turns 3 and 4 is about 18 degrees in banking over there, and it makes it for a very fun afternoon of racing for the Smart Modified Tour. If you weren't with us last year when this race was a late add to the Smart calendar, it turned out to be one of the most thrilling races. In fact, it saw a last lap pass by John Smith over James Savali. Bobby Labonte was up towards the front of that field as well, and when the dust settled, it was Jason Myers who rounded out the podium. Today, we have 21 Smart Stars on the ready to fire it up here at Franklin County. But before we do that, of course, we have to introduce the gentleman who will be offering up the most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome Congressman of the 9th District, Morgan Griffith, to get things started.
All right, thank you very much. Gentlemen, start your engines.
What an incredible command by Morgan Griffith with the energy we needed to help get this race off and running. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the top 10 redrew following qualifying, and that kind of shook up the front row just a little bit. As a matter of fact, Gary Putnam, who has a smart win to his credit in 2021, is going to lead the field of green flag alongside a fan favorite and Roanoke, Virginia native, Dennis Holdren, who will start second. Bobby Labonte and Bobby Meismer are going to make up row number 2 with Jonathan Brown and reigning champion Burt Myers in row 3. Back to row 4, Caleb Hetty, who was second fastest in the qualifying session earlier, redrew now to put himself in the 4th row alongside of Jeremy Gerstner and the Hillbilly Motorsports team, fresh off that runner-up finish last year. Row 5, you'll find that of Brian Lofton alongside of the quick time setter Brandon Ward. Talk about luck of the draw. All the way back to 10th spot will be that of car 2, who's been fast all day long. Row 6 is where you'll find Jason Myers, who loves this racetrack, starting alongside Florida native Johnny Kay in the 48. Kevin Orlando and Greg Butcher will take you back to the next row in line. And then one of the sentimental local favorites, that of Paul Hall in the 179. That car was top 3 in practice. They did not have the qualifying run they'd hoped for. They have an entire section of the grandstands dedicated to cheering him on over in turns 1 and 2. Hall looking for a stout effort here today. in what he hopes will parlay into more opportunities at driving that very race car. He'll be rolling off alongside that of Dan Spini. Then we have the Young brothers starting side by side in the Foxfire Towing numbers 03 and 02. It'll be Craig and Troy inside, outside. And the rest of our starting field sees that of the 21N of Tommy Neal, the 41 of Buzzy Beavers, and our 21st and final starter is that of Brian Weber. That's your field of starters. As the AutosByNelson.com pace truck is already got the lights out atop of it, and we are getting set to go for the 5th time this season. This racetrack that is made up of so much history in short track racing for this region, also for these types of cars. Our Justin Mincy fact of the race: 11 drivers of these 21 starters making their first tour-type modified start at Franklin County. Hang on, it's going to be a fun one. The AutosByNelson.com pace truck makes its way on a pit road. Field in the hands of Gary Putnam, and the Kenny Minter Classic is green. Side by side for the lead as they exit the back straightaway and enter turns 3 and 4. And Dennis Holdren has been very quick all night long, and he's got the lead at the line by inches. Holdren, though, washes way up the hill out of turn number 2 and will have to give up the top spot after he and Putnam almost came together off the corner. Putnam now will lead lap 2. All these drivers trying to nestle themselves into a bit of a rhythm as we'll be coming up on the 30-lap Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break, which will be an opportunity for these drivers perhaps to dial in their race cars as Putnam continues to lead the field through 1 and 2. Holdren, though, not quite giving up the opportunity to pace this field. He's all over the backside now, looking inside of Putnam as they come down the main straightaway. And down to the bottom comes out of Dennis Holdren. He's going to make the pass in turn 3 and go back to the point. It took them all but 5 laps, but Dennis Holdren and this Virginia crowd is on their feet and cheering on Holdren, who's gotten himself to the point and is driving away. Holdren has been able to open up that lead early to excess of 1 second. Putnam now riding in a runner-up spot. Bobby Labonte and Burt Myers going at it here for 3rd. Interesting to see the top line working there a little bit for Myers. As a matter of fact, Jonathan Brown's going to follow him through. Now Jeremy Gerstner next to get up and alongside of Bobby Labonte, who continues to hug the bottom of the racetrack off 4. Putnam, since losing the lead, now falling back into the clutches of this knot of cars. Jonathan Brown down low, going to try to take that 2nd spot away. Gerstner also underneath of the 1 car, Burt Myers, to try to pick up a spot inside the top 5. And Putnam appears to be struggling a little bit there now that he's kind of trapped up to the top side of the racetrack. Burt Myers has gotten by. Bobby Labonte is going to try to get by on the inside as well. And the fast time setter in qualifying, Brandon Ward, is the next car in line, already +3 in this race, 11 laps in. A lot of really fast cars in the midfield right now trying to work their way further forward as we got a car in trouble. Big crit. Dan Spini with a hard hit to the outside wall after spinning to try to avoid Johnny Kay. That was the first car to go around. Johnny Kay out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, was running 12th at the time. They got that car repaired after a crash at Callaway. Did not make the smart start at South Boston our last time out. He was the first car to go sideways, and then it was a big hit for Dan Spini on the left side of that race car. Everybody able to drive away from the scene, only exception being that of Dan Spini, who has had a hard contact. Also, one of the Foxfire Towing entries was involved in the crash as well. He was able to drive down the racetrack, however, did not make it back up towards the front. I believe that was the 03 of Craig Young, and indeed it was. The 02 of Troy Young has been able to circulate its way further past the incident. So that is back-to-back weeks that the 03 Foxfire Towing entry. Last time out, it was Jeff Foltz, who is one of the co-owners of Fury Race Cars, got the call late to come down to South Boston, Virginia. And the good news that we're hearing from track officials is that Dan Spini, despite that heavy shot to the left side of that race car, is in fact okay. So Spini, who is someone who jumped on board with the Smart Modified Tour not that long ago. As a matter of fact, it's only about his second or third start of 2022. And as soon as we looked up to the second corner, we noticed Spini's car taking a pretty flush and broadside impact, and it appears as though that both he and the 03 of Craig Young are not going to be able to continue this race. Yeah, the official word is this is in fact Spini's third start in that number 37 entry, and he is someone who owns his own business, which is something that a lot of these race teams and operators do. As a matter of fact, just this past week, one of our incredible partners in Bankers Life sent out a memo to all these team members offering up additional services. Remember, Bankers Life not only sponsors the Halfway Leader Award, which that point of the race is going to shift a little bit now that we've added a couple laps to the Kenny Minter Classic, but also they are the presenting sponsor of our Smarty Trophy. And typically when we talk about our friends at Bankers Life, we include things such as retirement planning and life planning and so many other aspects and elements, but the reality is they do so much for small business owners. They thought it was the perfect fit to be involved in motorsports by teaming up with us here in the Smart Modified Tour. We tell you all the time for more information to check out Bankers Life. We also got to check out H. Williams Capital. Haley Williams last couple weeks has been present in Victory Lane to hand out the Smarty Trophy on behalf of that of Bankers Life. And we start to see some of the damage that was occurred in the crash, and that is a lot of front end damage to the 03 of Craig Young. South Boston Speedway, that car was caught up in the big accident on the main straightaway when Jeff Foltz was at the helm. This time it is Craig who's back behind the wheel of his car, and it's an unfortunate ending for that team. Out of Ferrum, Virginia is that operation, so not that far from here. As a matter of fact, that team has offered up another tow vehicle for the case of the weekend. We didn't want it to be used, especially on their own race cars, that of the 03 with the Foxfire towing machine, but nevertheless, it is coming in handy here this afternoon, but not in the best of ways for Craig Young and that 03 operation. Similar fortune for that of Dan Spini, originally out of Newtown, Pennsylvania. He's now a North Carolina resident, is that of Spini. And we talk about those who are able to utilize motorsports and marketing initiatives for the better of their business and operation. Spini, who has his ShootingTargetsUSA.com sponsorship, offering up 37% off for new customers. If you could visit that website and check it out, and that's something that he's trying to use the vessel of motorsports to promote a little bit here. And unfortunately, his race is going to come to a close just 11 laps in by virtue of the crash in turn number 2. Now, the good news is that we did see Johnny K drive away from the scene of the accident after being the first car to go around. He is trailing up the tail end of the pack, and this gives us a chance to catch our breath. For those of you here at the racetrack or watching with us on Flow Racing, I'm Eric Brennan. We've got 11 laps complete so far with Virginia native and fan favorite Dennis Holdren out in front of the pack. Now, Holdren has run well all day long in that marked Audi O number 07, and he's gotten himself up to the head of the pack after passing Gary Putnam for the lead 5 laps into this race. Current running order shows Jonathan Brown in second, Jeremy Gerstner up to third, Burt Myers fourth, and Bobby Labonte your top 5. If you're new to racing with the Smart Modified Tour, we've got a couple of elements that we want to bring into the picture with you, one of which is that of our Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. It's an opportunity for drivers and teams to pick up not only some additional championship points, but also some cash. $300 to the driver who's leading at the end of lap 30. Our chief starter, J.B. Cole, will wave the orange and white checkered flag to acknowledge the fact that the stage has come to an end. It'll be $300 and 3 points to the driver who comes across the line in first, $200 for the runner-up, and $100 for the third-place driver to kind of add a little bit of a wrinkle into the mix. And Jerry Hunt Supercenter has been nice enough to come back for a second season, and they are one of the biggest supporters of motorsports in this quadrant of the country by a large margin. Another big supporter of motorsports is that of our friends at CitraSafe. Not only do they adorn the side of Burt Myers' car, they also are neatly wrapped around our very obvious CitraSafe choose cone. It's going to be the first chance we will see that in action in about a lap or so. That'll give these drivers an opportunity to elect what lane they want to restart in, inside or outside. And judging by what we've seen in the opening laps, the outside line's got a little bit of steam up there so far this afternoon, even though the sun is pretty much baking the majority of this racetrack. One other element that's going to be a little bit different in this Kenny Minter Classic compared to what we've had in the first 4 races of the season. We often talk about the fact that there are live pit stops. Well, because of how big the field is here this year, again, 21 cars in total, the decision was made by officials that we're not going to offer up the opportunity for teams to gain or lose positions on the pit lane, and we are going to provide another opportunity for them to come down to bolt on that one and only fresh Hoosier tire that they have in their arsenal. Now what that means is we will have the stage break at lap 30, and then there will be another point in this race. As a matter of fact, our officials selected 3 potential options, which they will quite literally pull out of a hat, and that will be when the caution will fly. Now, stage break, you're not required to pit during that caution flag, but it is meant to provide teams an opportunity to bolt on that fresh tire should they choose so, and they'll also have the chances of other yellow flags and cautions as well. Only difference here is we're going to send them back off the pit lane in the order in which they came onto the pit lane, but it will in fact still matter when they choose to stop. And that is an incredible move and heads-up call by the Smart Modified officials as well as the Franklin County Speedway, because, boy, have we packed this place with 21 modifieds. That's a significant increase from what we saw last year. And last year's race was a barn burner through and through with the incredible and stout field that we had. And we expect this race to pan out in similar fashion. So the field continues to circulate behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck, as it looks as though it is going to take 2 wreckers to remove Dan Speeney's car from the scene in turns 1 and 2. Well, unfortunately for Dan Speeney, he's going to require the assistance of a double hook while the field continues to circulate behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck. And we talked about some of our partners that have been a part of the Smart Modified Tour for quite some time. AutosByNelson.com, one of the newest partners, they actually offered up the opportunity to have this pace vehicle in our hands for the 2022 Smart Modified season, powered by Pace-O-Matic. AutosByNelson.com actually passed one of their locations on the way to the racetrack here this afternoon. They're Southern Virginia's largest auto group with over 1,000 new and used cars, trucks, and SUVs. Visit them online, AutosByNelson.com, to learn more. Now, one of the best storylines about this portion of the Smart Modified Tour season, and I'll give credit where credit is due, our chief starter, J.B. Cole, was giving an interview on a podcast not that long ago and said this race has a lot of meaning to it, not just because of how tough this racetrack is, not just because of what it means to the history of this style of racing in this region, where we've had so many officials jump in and try to say, what could we do to make it better? What could we do to strengthen this style of racing in this region? And they've jumped in a big way. The other reason is the fact this is our last Smart race until June 29th. We're going to be down for just over 11 weeks. Reason being, a lot of these teams and competitors really shift their focus to the 2022 season at the Madhouse, which you'll also have the opportunity to watch on Flow Racing. And being that we are aware of these teams, their plans, their agendas, and the agreements they've made with their respective partners, we offer them a chance to go have some fun at the Madhouse, and we stand idle until that one race at Callaway, June 29th. It'll be a Wednesday night, a little bit of a twist to our plot and schedule for the season. And then we'll be down again until Labor Day weekend, when we will truly kick it up into high gear and take us all the way through who our 2022 Smart Champion will be, powered by Pace-O-Matic. For more information, all you have to do is visit smartmodtour.com to learn more. And as you can see, the reason behind the extended caution, and you never want to see this at any point in the race, let alone being just 11 laps in, the double record treatment for that of the number 37 of Newtown, Pennsylvania native, now North Carolina resident, Dan Speeney, being hoisted off of the racetrack after the hard hit. And this is going to be our first opportunity to see how that left side of that race car looks. Because from here, in an instant, it looked like a pretty hard shot for Speeney. And it looks as though, indeed, that left side did sustain significant damage, as that car is now being brought back to the Speeney pit stall. Oh, looks as though a little bit of miscommunication there between those two tow truck drivers, and they're able to save it there. And now that the track is clear, we can start to roll the field yet again and see how the rest of this race is going to unfold. So far, 11 laps complete, and Dennis Holdren out in front of the field. Now, he's not the only Virginia driver in the field, but if you recall, back in 2021, Dennis Holdren has been doing this for quite some time, finished 4th in the Smart Modify race at South Boston, Virginia, and pulled up on the front straightaway because he was so excited he wanted to take an opportunity to embrace it with his fans who were in the grandstands. So we're just a few moments away from seeing the CitraSafe Choose Cone for the first time. The CitraSafe Choose Cone. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what CitraSafe is, we mentioned the weather here, 60 degrees and beautiful. If you see a lot of smoke coming from the pit area and around the racetrack, there's a lot of grilling going on. But when they're wrapped up, they're going to be reaching for CitraSafe cleaners. As a matter of fact, if it's grill season, it's definitely race season as well. You can check them out for all your grill cleaning needs on the web at citrasafe.com. That's CitraSafe, proud sponsor of the Smart Modified Tour Choose Cone. So Dennis Holdren out in front, Jonathan Brown second, Jeremy Gerstner was talking to Jeremy a little bit earlier today, and he too, fresh off of a bit of a test at Bowman Gray Stadium in preparation for what he hopes to be a positive 2022 season. Gerstner in the car that James Savali drove to a podium finish last year and what was one of the most electrifying finishes that we had all year long. And judging by this, if we were to remove the incident that happened in turn 2 to put us under the caution, I would say on the race product alone that we've seen in these opening 11 laps or so, we've had 3 lead changes unofficially between Holdren and Putnam. We've seen the outside lane working really well. I think it's safe to say that we're on tap for another barn burner here at Franklin County Speedway. Chris Honeycutt, Smart Modified official, is going to place the CitraSafe Choose Cone on the main straightaway. That's a tall order considering how banked this front stretch is. And we will see what Holdren and company elect to do as they come up to that CitraSafe Choose Cone for the first time this afternoon. Holdren elects the bottom, Jonathan Brown topside, Gerstner's going to fill the hole inside, and Burt Myers wants to see what that outside lane's got in store. Labonte and Brandon Ward going to go down low. Gary Putnam elects the top side, as does one of our winners on the season, Caleb Hetty. Hetty, one of, in fact, the only 2022 winner in the field today. Remember, Matt Hirschman won 3 out of 4 races in 2022 after entering all 4, and it was Hetty who bested the field at Callaway just 2 races ago. 1 lap away from the restart after the multi-car crash in turn number 2 slowed this field for the first time. Again, these drivers racing to the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break at lap 30, and then it'll be no holds bars all the way down to the checkered flag. As luck would have it, we have 99 laps to go. Our Smart Modify races are traditionally set at 99 laps in length. As a matter of fact, because of the extra distance, that stage break's going to come at lap 35 here today. So Holdren and Jonathan Brown getting set to lead the field back down for the restart. 99 to go. And look at Jonathan Brown make that outside lane work. He's going to rocket to the front in the SS Racing number 22, and he's got Jeremy Gerstner coming with him. Brown and Gerstner using the high side thanks to the Citrus Safe Choose Cone to get themselves up to the lead. And our reigning champion, Burt Myers, is going to try to follow suit as well. Myers, though, not able to get the drive off the corner that Brown and Gerstner were. He's going to stay tucked in behind that of Dennis Holdren, who rides third. 5 cars kind of locked together, single file formation, with Brown ahead of Gerstner, 1 and 2. Holdren now has fallen to third. Burt Myers fourth. Gary Putnam, your top 5. And that time by, Jonathan Brown ran the fastest lap of the race. That time through, albeit early, but nevertheless, that car is trying to grow the distance between himself and Gerstner, but it's not quite working just yet. Gerstner on the back dirt bars to come out of 2. We're mentioning earlier the fact that Gerstner absolutely loves this racetrack, and he's not alone. A lot of drivers really enjoy the opportunity to race here at Franklin County. They love the vibe. They love the fact that there's a bit of a consequence for getting your left sides too low, as there's a bit of a curve there down to the inside, similar to what you would see at Martinsville Speedway. And Gerstner and that Hillbilly team were both up towards the front of the pack in both practice sessions here earlier on this afternoon. Since getting up to the lead, things have actually started to tighten up once again between that of Gerstner in the middle of Jonathan Brown and Dennis Holdren. Now Gerstner hunts the inside as they come out of 4. Jeremy Gerstner on the bottom, lap traffic ahead. Gerstner saw it on the wheel as he came out of turn number 2, and he's going to get boxed in behind that of Brian Weber. Oh, trouble! Brian Weber spins in front of the pack, and everybody somehow gets by. Brian Weber, who just went a lap down to race leader Jonathan Brown, lost it coming off of turn number 4. And boy, that was close. Brandon Ward had to do some nifty avoiding there. And he somehow found a way between the spinning car of Weber and Brian Lofton, who is to driver's right. Second caution of the race. This one coming out here on lap number 21. Caution comes about 14 laps shy of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break, and as we reiterated, that'll actually be taking place at lap number 35 here as part of the 110 lap Kenny Minter Classic here at the Franklin County Speedway. Only 21 laps in, and it's pretty amazing how much the running order has shuffled about. We've seen so many changes for the lead already, just 21 laps into this race. Gary Putnam has led a few laps. Dennis Holdren's led a few laps. Jonathan Brown leads now, and he was under heavy pressure from Jeremy Gerstner, who wanted to try to wrestle that point away. Let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Brown and the run that he's been on so far this season. 6th in the Pace-O-Matic points coming into this race here. Again, round number 5 of the 2022 Smart Modified Tour. Brown 6th in points, new team. Remember, he was part of Buddy Ellis's Car Owners Championship winning operation in a ride that Brown split with John Smith, who was the winner here in that car last year. And also Danny Bone gave it some good rides as well to help Buddy Ellis capture that owner's title. Jonathan Brown got the call from SS Racing, Hermie Sadler, and State Senator Bill Stanley. They said, we want you to represent our team and our brand. And so far, Brown has been doing it well. He elects the inside for the Citrus Safe Choose Cone for this upcoming restart with Jeremy Gerstner outside. Dennis Holdren going to line up inside of row 3, while Burt Myers will go high as well. Surprised about Jonathan Brown electing the bottom of the racetrack. Remember, he took the lead away from Holdren on the last restart after electing the high side the last time he came through the Citrus Safe Choose Cone. But Jonathan Brown wants that car lining up here on the bottom lane. So as they come around to the 1 to go signal, it's Brown and Gerstner, the front row. Both drivers looking for their first smart win of the season As a matter of fact, pretty much everybody down the back straightaway. Brown and Gerstner getting the set up for restart. 21 laps complete, 89 to go, 14 until we get to the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. Brown, Gerstner, Holdren, Burt Myers, your front four. They come back to the restart. And what a launch. Gerstner gone on the restart, able to lunge his way out in front. Gerstner out in front of the pack. Brown second, Burt Myers in third. Then Dennis Holdren fourth. Bobby Labonte trying to make some ground. Labonte working the only car that's trying to work the outside lane. Labonte and Ward still going to be coming up on the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break in less than 10 laps with Gerstner the leader. In fourth, Caleb Henny cracks the top five. And Gerstner's trying to open up a little bit of lead there as he starts to put down. And the points and the money that comes with it. Burt Myers trying to work the high side as they come out of turn number 4. For those of you watching on Flow Racing, I want to apologize. It appears as though we're experiencing some technical difficulties, and our team is working diligently to try to get that rectified before we come up to the stage break here. With Jonathan Brown trying to close up on Burt Myers. They come out of turn number 4 and onto the front stretch. Gerstner out in front by about a car length and a half. Brown running in second. Burt Myers about a half a car length back. And then a gap back to Dennis Holdren and Caleb Henny, your top 5. While Brown's closed it up, he's doing everything possible. Burt Myers hunts the high side for second spot. Myers outside. Can't quite. Gerstner for the stage win. Here they come off of turn number 4. The Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage goes to Jeremy Gerstner.
Gear up to win with Buzzy Racing. With over 40 years of experience in motorsports and countless victories, Buzzy Racing provides teams with superior drivetrain sales and service. Whether you need assistance with transmissions, gears, axles, brakes, steering, drive shafts, or differentials, we have you covered. Family owned and operated, Buzzy Racing is dedicated to our customers on track success. What are you waiting for? Visit us at buzzyracing.com to learn more.
Big dreams start with small victories.
Have you thought about what you want to be yet when you grow up? Mm-hmm. What do you want to be?
Race car driver.
For over 30 years, we've manufactured high-quality, reliable, American-made parts. Whether you're cutting your first laps in a quarter midget or competing for thousands of dollars on the biggest stage, Joe's Racing Products will be with you every step of the way. We'll be there for you. Visit us online at joesracing.com.
Welcome back to Franklin County. So far at this point in the race, nobody has elected to come down and bolt on their one and only sticker tire. And unfortunately for Dennis Holdren, there appears to be some concern on the front end of his car. That car came down for a stop, and he has yet to pull away. The driver who led some of the opening laps of this race is still on the pit lane, with the crew working some attention, at least to the best of our vantage point here, to the front end of that car, while also making some pretty significant chassis adjustments and maybe even some air pressure adjustments to that right rear as well. We saw Holdren fall down just a little bit in terms of the running order. It looks as though he will be able to work his way back up towards the front of the pack. Also, we see the number 21 of Tommy Neal and the 41 of Buzzy Beavers have come down, but none of the front runners have elected to take this opportunity to come down and put on that fresh Hoosier rubber. This is going to be the third time we will see the CitraSafe Choose Comb, with Gerstner electing the inside, Jonathan Brown outside. Burt Myers likes the top lane so far. Caleb Hetty will go inside of row number 2. So far in the last 2 restarts, it's been the outside lane that has been that of the preferred line, whether it was Jonathan Brown taking the lead away from Holdren on the outside in 1 and 2, or Jeremy Gerstner. Caleb, Ryan Lofton, and Bobby Labonte, row 3. 1 to go signal going to be given this time through. So now we're getting set to write the next chapter of the 2nd annual Kenny Minter Classic here at Franklin County Speedway. Jeremy Gerstner out in front after winning the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. Jonathan Brown second. Caleb Hetty going to line up on the inside of row number 2 with Burt Myers on the outside. Going to the lead on the backstretch. Boy, the outside lane has been good today in turns 1 and 2. Jonathan Brown back to the point. Gerstner running in P2. Burt Myers in 3rd. Caleb Hetty and Bobby Labonte starting to tighten up their fight. And it looks as though the black flag is coming out for a car that is running in the midfield. We'll try to get a positive ID on that car for you. It might be the number 14 of Bobby Meismer. We'll try to keep tabs on that situation as the leaders come off turn 4. Down the back straightaway come the front runners. Battle starting to materialize here inside the top 10. Brandon Ward on the low side of Brian Lofton as they come down the main straightaway, while Bobby Labonte starts to exercise the outside lane in 1 and 2 on Caleb Hetty. Brown, Gerstner, Myers, Hetty, Labonte, your top 5. Almost got the wall that time as he came out of 4. And that doesn't check him up at all. He's going to continue to try to rip the top to get around Gerstner for 2nd. Double wide, 2 rows deep. Gerstner and Burt Myers in the battle for 2nd. Behind them, double wide is that of the 25 of Bobby Labonte with Caleb Hetty down low. We believe the car that got the black flag was that of number 48 of Johnny K. He has made his way back to the pit area as the race continues on. 45 laps complete, and the leaders are coming up on the back of Brian Weber, and Burt Myers is hunting the lead. Weber is going to stick to the bottom side here as they come through 3 and 4. Brown gets by cleanly. Caleb Petty runs way up the hill behind him. Myers got a good run that time off of turn 2. Looking to perhaps try to size up and set up. Jonathan Brown with a lead. Labonte in the picture as well. And now Gerstner has fallen back into the 4th spot. And we got a caution. Got a car on the wall. That's Paul Hall in turn number 2, who has gotten up and into the fence. Paul Hall in the second Hillbilly Motorsports number 79. This one dubbed the 179. Caught up in a crash and what he called an opportunity race here at the Franklin County Speedway. Paul Hall was 3rd fastest in the morning practice session. Talked to Paul during the midweek and kind of posed the question, how did the relationship come to pass for you and this Hillbilly team? Turns out he actually raced go-karts for Roger Hill back in 1998 and 1999, and he's been part of the Hillbilly family ever since. As a matter of fact, he had the idea to run Franklin County back in 2020 when they were running the Bowman Gray Stadium rules. Got an opportunity to run that race and came home 2nd to Tim Brown. He was then able to garner up a bunch of partners in order to have the chance to get an opportunity like what he has here today. He's won here many times before, late models, Mod 4s, you name it. He's got a number of partners who've been able to help him get to where he is this afternoon, and that's behind the wheel of this Hillbilly Motorsports race car. Mike Plunkett Excavating, Rocky Mount Burger Company, along with many, many members of his friends and family who helped put the funds together to put Paul behind the wheel of that car. And now the pit lane is a busy, busy place. Paul Hall is going to bring his car to the attention of his crew, Dennis Holdren and Gary Putnam, the highest running starters. In fact, that's both of your front row starters coming in for an opportunity at service. However, not seeing anybody reach to bolt on a right side tire at this point.
No, I don't think. Is this your competition, Yellow? I don't believe so. No.
So while Putnam and Holdren have themselves on the pit lane for now, field continues to circulate behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck.
You're on to 77. That's good.
After the incident in turn number 2 involving that of Paul Hall. You truly could not ask for better weather here in Callaway, Virginia. Again, temperature just over 60 degrees here as we're about a quarter of the way past the 6 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. And whether you're with us in the grandstands, the one fascinating thing about Franklin County Speedway is just how far the grandstands and property line wraps around this entire 3/8 mile racetrack. We've seen people camping on the back straightaway all the way through turn number 2 all day long. And it's an absolutely beautiful afternoon for racing. And fortunately for all of us, we still got more than half of this race still to go. As they hit the Citrus Safe Choose Cone, Jonathan Brown is going to elect the high side. First time we've seen the leader at this point in the race come up to the outside of the Citrus Safe Choose Cone and go high. Burt Myers going to choose down low. Second row will be made up of Jeremy Gerstner and Bobby Labonte. That outside lane is certainly there this afternoon, and it has been put to work by some of our pace setters. And we'll see if Jonathan Brown could do something similar here on this upcoming restart. Brown topside, Burt Myers inside. Now, Burt would be the first to tell you that despite the fact that he got his second Smart Modified Championship a year ago, he desperately wants to put that team back in victory lane. It appeared as though he was climbing the rung to do so. Finished 4th in the season opener, 3rd at the second race of the year. second at our third stop on the calendar at Callaway. Had some bad luck at South Boston. Maybe today's the day that car 1 finishes P1. Let's see how it pans out. Upcoming restart here at Franklin County with Brown leading us back down to the restart, and Burt Myers did not get going. Myers wall. Kevin Orlando up into the wall in 3. Washington. Here we are 54 laps in, and Orlando has found the wall up in. So this is the 5th caution of this race here at lap number 54. Couple laps shy of halfway unofficially.
That's why I was hoping you could tape it somehow to give it some security.
At the time of the caution flag, Jonathan Brown, by virtue of that strong restart on the outside lane, was able to move up to the top spot. Bobby Labonte in second. Brandon Ward, your top 3. It's been amazing how at all 5 races so far this season, we've seen the title sponsor of the Smart Modified Tour present themselves, make themselves available for fans, teams, and they are truly embracing their role as the title support of the Smart Modified Tour in 2022. They've got their name on our series, our pole, our restart zone, our hard charger award, victory lane, and the point standings. We're coming into this race. Matt Hirschman, who's not here in attendance, boasts a 25 marker advantage over the field. Now, since 2000, Pace-O-Matic has assembled an incredibly talented team. Top to bottom, built on the grounds of integrity, innovation, and compliance, all of which aligns perfectly with the world of motorsports and tour-type modified racing. As an entertainment company, they develop gaming software that players love to play. And now Pace-O-Matic, as they're all about giving back to local communities, small businesses, they've now entered the world of motorsports. To learn more about their history, their business, their charitable initiatives, products, and more, check out all their social media outlets. They are very active on social media, and there's a lot of deep dives into their products, personnel, and everything in between. Or check them out on the web at paceomatic.com. That's Pace-O-Matic, proud supporter of grassroots initiatives and proud sponsor of the Smart Modified Tour in 2022. We continue to await Kevin Orlando's car to be removed from the racetrack. We continue to circulate under the caution flag at this point in the race. So Kevin Orlando going to be brought back to the attention of his crew. Jonathan Brown, Bobby Labonte, and Brandon Ward, your leader. For those of you who may be following along with timing and scoring, whether it be on Race Monitor or with us on Flow Racing, it's evident that apparently the running order may not necessarily be accurate. The track is working diligently to try to get that circumstance righted, with Jonathan Brown and Bobby Labonte continuing to parade this field with the citrus St. Choose cone upcoming. Now, unfortunately, it looks as though the red flag is going to have to fly here at Franklin County. The track is working diligently to try to right the scoring situation. AutosByNelson.com pace truck is going to make its way down towards the end of the front.
Hi, my name is Joe Constance with Joe's Racing Products. My company has been producing high-quality racing components in the USA for over 30 years. We know the commitment and determination it takes to win races because we race too. We're determined to produce quality products that can help you get to the finish line first. Ask your dealer for Joe's Racing Products or visit us online at joesracing.com.
Racers that win, pour it in, and we appreciate you.
to give him, I'm going to give him my wild mic. See if it's a mic failure. That's with the shot. All right. There's nothing I can do about this. Let me see if I'm kicking here. Okay, I'm kicking on my wild.
Mentioned the fact that Matt Hirschman is not in today's field, but one of the winners in 2022 is. As a matter of fact, if you follow Tour Type Modified Racing, Tommy Baldwin Racing has been very busy so far this season. They were down at the World Series of Asphalt, had much success with Jimmy Showtime Blewett taking home the Tour Type Modified Championship for that event down at New Smyrna. They also, just as recently as last night, won the Thompson Open Modified event with Mike Christopher Jr. at the helm and a number of members of that team. And I'll credit Justin Mincy, who does a lot of our PR work and follows a number of people throughout modified racing. They actually made, a number of members of that team did, the 10-hour trek down south in order to see how Caleb Petty will be able to perform here today, and the answer to that so far is quite well. Petty was second fastest in qualifying. The redraw put him back a little bit, and you would never know that the youngster out of Shelbyville, Kentucky is only in his second season of Tour Type Modified racing, because he has been methodically working his way through the pack. Going to restart up in the top 10. Not exactly sure quite where yet, because we haven't seen that Citrus Safe Choose cone under this caution flag just yet. But we do know that Hetty will in fact be up there. And the other storyline to follow is the fact that none of these front runners have put on that fresh Hoosier tire just yet. So they're obviously going to wait until perhaps the final third of this race for the opportunity to get themselves a fresh bit of a Hoosier rubber underneath them. And we'll see how that will parlay up into an opportunity to close out the Kenny Minter Classic with a victory. Do a bit of a recap for you. Earlier today, we saw that of Brandon Ward set the quick time and Pace-O-Matic pole qualifying. By virtue of a top 10 redraw, Ward had to restart as low as you could in that redraw. Had to start back on the outside of row number 5 in 10th spot. Race ran green after a pretty intense battle for the race between that of Gary Putnam and Dennis Holdren. Holdren was able to take the top spot away, but then a caution came out for a multi-car crash in turn number 2 after Johnny Kay was the first car to go sideways. It was then Craig Young and Dan Beanie who went into the wall hard in the second corner, ending both of their days. The race would restart, go green for another 10 laps before Brian Weber lost control of his car on his own off of turn 4 in front of the pack. No harm, no foul. Race was able to continue up to which saw Jeremy Gerstner lay claim to his first stage win of the season. Race then went green for a little bit longer until, unfortunately, his Hillbilly Racing teammate in Paul Hall had contact with the wall in turn number 2. And this caution now flies here with 54 laps still to go at this point, after we had an issue with the electronic timing and scoring, and now some additional track repairs taking place over in turn number 2. One of the best things about this racetrack is just the amount of character it has. And for me personally, as someone who was fortunate enough to jump on board with the Smart Tour in 2021, at a time in which they were oftentimes canceling races due to all that was going on in the world at that point, the Smart Modified Tour was one of the few who actually added a race to their schedule in 2021, and it happened to be here at Franklin County. And we ended up with a really healthy field of cars, and as we said many a times over, it be the best race of Bobby Labonte was in the mix, James Savali was in the mix, and when all the slamming and banging was done, it was John Smith who found his way through for the lead in victory off the final corner, bringing Buddy Ellis's car to victory lane for what would be the first of 2 trips to the winner's circle for his AmeriFast number 24 team. Speaking of, we oftentimes see Buddy Ellis in and about the pit area. He's been to every Smart race this season so far. And the funny thing is, his role changes a little bit. Last week, he was helping out Jeff Foltz, who he has a long-standing partnership and friendly relationship with there as far as teamwork. He said that Foltz helped him out many a times in terms of his racing career, and he decided to come back and return the favor as well. So Buddy Ellis was an incredible person. Had a chance to catch up with him a little while ago and kind of asked, you know, itching to we continue to see him as a fixture at Smart Modify races throughout the remainder of 2022, as his very busy schedule will hopefully allow. Mentioned the significance of this race, the Kenny Minter Classic, honoring the 1993 Smart Modify Rookie of the Year. And actually, for me, in going back and reviewing some of Kenny's success in asphalt modify racing in the early to mid-90s, it was really impressive to see how he kind of came to his own as a modified driver, unfortunately, up until the time in which we lost him. The results were just starting to continue to multiply and magnify for Kenny Minter in his career, and it got to a point where he was starting to truly hit his peak and hit his stride. And as we mentioned, we lost Kenny in 1995 at Callaway Speedway. It was a sudden and tragic loss for all involved, including his family, of course, but his legacy lives on in many ways, including with Kenny Minter Jr., who is one of the hardest working crew members you will find in the pit area.
I think that's him coming right there. The 20.
And he is, in fact, here today trying to work with that number 2 car up towards the front of the pack.
Just letting this car out right here, too. Mom's at hospital, so.
Hey, open the gate and let this 28 out, but make sure his transponder's off.
Saw a number of key figures here in attendance for this race. Now, for all of us who follow motorsports, of capacities, we all know the Cup Series was in action at Martinsville Speedway. Believe it or not, it's not that far from Franklin County here. As a matter of fact, 29 miles to get from Franklin County Speedway down to Martinsville, Virginia, and the historic Martinsville half-mile oval. And there are a number of people who got to double dip a little bit this weekend, some of our members and our staff and crew as well. But I saw Matthew Dillner, who was kind enough to join me in the broadcast booth at South Boston Speedway last time out. He's here with his young one, Hudson, enjoying the festivities. The postman, Steve Post. I believe I saw on Twitter this is his 226th different racetrack. And if I got the number wrong, just head on over to Postman's Twitter. You can verify it yourself and give him a follow, because you want to talk about someone who supports grassroots racing. Steve Post is surely the patriarch for those who love racetracks like Franklin County. And he's not alone. Aaron Creed is in attendance, and we were joking a little bit talking about how many venues that the Postman has been to. Aaron's list is getting up there, but it's not quite as high as Postman. He's told me that this is his 123rd different racetrack that he's been able to visit, but he's got plenty more on his agenda, and Aaron is a great person who has been immersed in the world of motorsports for quite some time. You also have many people throughout the back straightaway who have been enjoying the racing action here as we continue to await the thumbs up from turn number 2 once track repairs have been completed. We could finally see who's going to walk away with the 2nd annual Kenny Minter Classic here at Franklin County Speedway.
This dude's mama, they just took to the emergency room.
So Jonathan Brown, Bobby Labonte, Brandon Ward, Burt Myers, and Brian Lofton, your top 5 as they run. For those of you who are following along with the docket here this weekend, you will in fact know that the 602 Modifieds are here in attendance, and there are a couple of parallels there from the Smart Modified Tour to that of the 602 Crate Modifieds, one of which one would think would be that of young Carson Brown. Has been very impressive, in fact picked up a win in the 602 Crate Modified at Callaway not that long ago. Brian is in the pit area, and we posed the question, our team did, as far as is Carson going to be here as well. Carson, a youngster who just celebrated a birthday not that long ago and has been very good behind the wheel of his crate mod. They said, though, with all that they have on hand as far as trying to be able to repeat some of the success they had in the last 2 years on the Smart Tour, they thought they would just keep their focus on the Shady Grit Racing number 15. But you will definitely be seeing Carson Lofton in a 602 Crate Modified in a racetrack near you once again shortly. That kid is stout, and that kid is fast. A former Smart Modified competitor is here on the grounds with his youngster, Mike Norman, who ran for us many a times in 2021. Also served as the track chaplain at events in which our drivers' meetings and such were held with Mike in attendance. He is a stand-up guy, and if you look at the structure and frame of he alongside of his young son, Cody Norman, who is here today racing at a 602 Crate Modified, it is pretty clear that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. How Cody's able to strap into that car with how tall he is at such a young age is absolutely astounding. And Cody will be going for a 602 Crate win to back up a victory that he secured a couple of weeks back as well. We also have 2 drivers in the field pulling double duty, one of which saw a premature exit in the Smart Modified event in Dan Speeney, 11 laps in. He's also slated to get behind the wheel of the number 9 602 Crate Modified in just a short while. And Brian Weber is trying to log as many laps as he can in the Smart Modified event. He's got a 602 Crate mod with him as well. So a couple of parallels for those of you who are following how the 602s are evolving at this part of the country. And for those of you who are with us in attendance here at the Franklin County Speedway, as there is still more racing to come whenever we get to the checkered flag of the Kenny Minter Classic.
Is that Shady going out too? I think the only real thing I would say about the only thing we do, I was like, what you were doing, you were wide.
Well, shut it.
Want to appreciate everyone's patience here, considering all that we have endured up to this point today. As we mentioned, a number of yellow flags so far. This our fifth, slowing the field now at this point in the race. And it's a bit of a hybrid of both the timing and scoring fix as well as a bit of a track fix down in turn number 2. But we are getting closer to restarting this event. And if the second half of this race is going to be anything like the first, it is going to be a fun run to the checkers. And that is the sound we all wanted to see. The engines are refiring on the main straightaway, and the AutoSbyNelson.com pace truck is going to begin to lead the field back around for a few more pace laps before we get this race back underway. Back underway. Now being displayed yet again here, and we are just a few laps away from seeing that Citrus Safe Choose Cone present itself on the main straightaway once more, with Jonathan Brown still leading this field. We've been telling a lot of the stories about how drivers and teams have gotten involved in racing. How about the story on that number 2 car? We mentioned the immense support that Pace has provided the Smart Modified Tour in 2022. They've also done that SS Racing, and for those of you who don't know, the SS stands for very important people, not only in motorsport, but this part of our amazing country. State Senator Bill Stanley actually met the state senator here at Franklin County last year, and he is an absolutely incredible person who likes to do so much for so many, including all of those who own and operate small businesses. Those are ideologies that fit perfectly with that of the folks at Pace-O-Matic, and also with former NASCAR driver, former NASCAR then Busch Series Rookie of the Year, and a very successful competitor in all fronts. Senator have teamed up not only to host a very entertaining and enlightening podcast week to week, but also to field this race car. And as the Citrus Safe Choose comes out, they have to prove their success on a number of fronts and in so many different ways. As a matter of fact, they went in double strong as they fielded a car for Ryan Newman to contest with in the Wheeler Modified Tour event at Richmond just a couple of weeks ago. As the Safe Choose Cone makes its way out on the main straightaway, no surprise, Jonathan Brown is going to elect the top side. The last 2 restarts have shown the outside and front row starter to have the edge. We will see if that trend continues here as the lights are out atop the AutoSbyNelson.com pace truck. Jonathan Brown, the leader. Restart on the outside in car number 22. Inside, your fastest qualifying. Pace-O-Matic Pole Award qualifying. Brandon Ward going to roll on the inside of row number 1. Going to get out of Jeremy Gersner, Jerry Hunt Super Center Stage winner, takes you through your 5. Finally, we're going to get back to Franklin County. We're back underway. Got a car on the wall. 1, Greg Butcher with a hard hit in the first quarter and a car on the wall on the backstretch as well. Greg Butcher went down in the turn number 1, and that car did not want to corner. Butcher with a hard hit down in turn number 1, and the other cars involved in the crash that happened off of turn number 2 was that of Gary Putnam and the 02 Troy Young. Was watching that out of the vicinity of our broadcast tower here atop the start line. And it was Greg Butcher who went into the wall hard up in turn number 1. Butcher's car has yet to roll after the contact up in the first corner. This car, you'll see, very familiar to Jason Myers. Is paired on. Butcher and his company jumped on as a supporter of Jason Myers and his team's operation, and they've been fielding that car for Greg Butcher pretty much all season long, and he's been able to make it to the finish at most of our races. Unfortunately, he had the spin at the end of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break, and now he has the contact down in turn number 1 to end his race here this afternoon. We did have a stack up off turn number 2, the other Foxfire Towing. Now Putnam was able to drive away, has not elected to come down the pit lane for service, but the O2 machine of Troy Young has come down the pit lane, and there may be some pretty significant damage on the right front of his Foxfire Towing number 02. Now, because of turning up this yellow, we did not get a lap complete, and this gives us a chance here as we adjust to the fact of this race being a little bit longer than our traditional Smart Modified events. We are actually 1 lap away from halfway. So that means these drivers are going to be racing for $200, courtesy of our friends at Bankers Life. We told you they're the presenting sponsor of our Smarty Truck. They also have offered up $100 in cash a leader at halfway. So that could play a bit of a role as to why some of these drivers are foregoing their chance to come in the pit lane, at least onto this portion of the race. We've been taking the chance throughout what is now our 6th caution of the race to talk about a number of our partners. And we mentioned these drivers are going to be in pretty much a 1-lap shootout until they get to that Bankers Life halfway bonus. And we mentioned earlier, Bankers Life is such an amazing and incredible partner. They actually sent out a memo to all of our Smart Modified teams and drivers offering up their services, waiving their fees, and they can pass on some of those bonuses and incentives to all of you as well. Now, when I think having to prepare for what life is ahead or what life has ahead as far as financial planning, I often think about things such as 401ks, life insurance, and all that jazz. The reality is Bankers Life can help you there, but boy, they can help you in so many other avenues. They have investment opportunities that they can present to you. Owners, as mentioned, Bankers the premier for an agent near you. You want to search out H. Williams Capital to learn more. Citrus Safe Juice Cone on the racetrack yet again. And Jonathan Brown go high here for an opportunity to reach the lead if at all possible. But he's got a new series champion, Labonte comes into this race 4th in championship points. Podium finish at Callaway and has been very consistent, and he's got a familiar voice back in the headset. His primary spotter, Brent Wentz, after helping out Callan a lot on the IndyCar side and Bubba Wallace on the NASCAR front down at COTA. This is the 2nd race that Brent Wentz has been able to get back up atop the spotter stand for an opportunity to potentially lead Bobby Labonte to victory. They're going to be restarting on the front row for the first time this afternoon. Behind them, Brian Law. 1 lap. Jonathan Brown's going to be able to squeeze out. Field's going to go by Greg Butcher, who's as Gerstner and Hetty thread their way around the outside. They somehow survive the corner. is now taking place for the 6th position. Jonathan Brown now opened up a little bit of an advantage here over Bobby. And Labonte runs up high. Buckle wall that time as he came out 2. Leaving the door open for the bottom. 3 cars under a blanket as they come out of 2. Ward trying to get alongside 2, but couldn't do it. Brown running about the point. Labonte trying to hunt his way up top. Labonte got a big run that time. Peeks out. Is a try to wait to see if he can make a move. Back to Brian Weber. Leaders are able to get by Weber. Although Labonte got a little bit too high that time, and now Labonte, Burt Myers, and Jeremy Gertner, top 5, all in a condo line down the main straightaway. And Brandon Ward is in the turn of the heat. Ward closing up on Jonathan Brown, that came out of 2 that time. Burt Myers low. The leaders make their way down the backstretch. So at a buzzy beat here in field 20 cars and allows the lane to get by on the outside. Got a car around turn 1. That's Paul Hall for the 2nd time today. With 40 laps to go, Paul Hall spins in turn number 1, and it will slow this field yet again. Field now behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck yet again. This race that has seen many cautions now entering the good pit strategy. Pit time by, so we may see them make their way down as Greg Butcher is going to get the free pass. Be able to get himself back up onto the lead lap by virtue of being the first car 1 lap down at the time of the yellow. Caution comes with 40 laps to go, and I think the pit lane is going to be a busy place. Now keep in mind, you cannot gain or lose positions on the pit lane, so we're going in order the way is going to come down. Brandon is going to Burt Myers, Caleb Petty, Bobby Meismer, Brian Alton, and more all electing to come down to bolt on what we expect to be right rear tires, and that is the name of the game across the board. Just about everybody going for a sticker Hoosier tire on the right rear of their race car. Of the cars that stayed out, Bobby Labonte, Buzzy Beavers, and that may be just about it. Bobby Labonte is a lonely man right now behind the AutosByNelson.com pace truck. So this may very well be the moment of the race where things get interesting. The majority of the lead lap cars have elected to come down for their right rear tire. And if you have been following Smart Modified Racing throughout most of 2020 and 2021, you would oftentimes see a sense of urgency. But due to the pit standards that have been set forth by Smart Modified officials today, these teams could take their time on these stops and perhaps make some pretty significant adjustments for this last-ditch run to the checkers. Still seeing some considerable work going on Dennis Holdren's car, which if you were following the timing and scoring charts throughout most of the day, you really would have thought that he certainly would be up there mixing it up with the front runners all race long. That Mark Dowdy on number 07 was up there, in fact led the opening parts of this race. Before having the handle fade on that car, they actually elected to stop under one of the first few cautions of this event in an effort to try to change the handling characteristics of that car. And they continue to work diligently on that machine of Holdren. So Bobby Labonte appears to have been the only car lead rubber. That's going to make this citrus juice going all the more important for Labonte, and the question now becomes how great is the difference in fresh tires, or I should say a fresh tire, as opposed to still being on the Hoosier rubber that you strapped on to this race. Is this going to be a position where Labonte can hang tough towards the front, maybe even protect the lead? Let's not forget, when Caleb Petty won at Callaway, he was at a significant difference as far as the time in which he stopped versus the field that was trying to charge up through the pack behind him. Had a masterful job defending the challenge. Labonte's going to have a similar task ahead of him here, and 40 laps until they reach the pay dirt. For those of you who may just be joining us here on Flow Racing, I'm Eric Brennan, and we are watching what is about to be 40 laps. The second annual Kenny Minter Classic, the fifth race of the 2022 Smart powered by Pace-O-Matic. This race running 110 laps in honor of Kenny Minter, who used to adorn the number 10 throughout most of his racing career. It also kind of changed up circumstances as far as how pit stops were conducted with today's race. Because we had 21 cars in the entry blank, it simply just would not have been possible to try to set up appropriate sized pit stalls while also trying to respect the other classes that are racing here. The decision was made by the Smart Modified officials that for a will re-enter the running order in the order in which you came in, but you will of course have to start at the back of the cars that elected to stay out. The unfortunate note there is the only number 25 of Labonte, who has been on a bit of a tear. The results for Labonte been quite strong pretty much throughout most of this season. We mentioned the popular podium finish he had at Callaway. And is trying to continue to ride that climb and wave of momentum while he and his car owner Andretti, Mike Smith, continue to add more races to their modified slate, and they are having a great time. Citrus Safe Choose Cone coming out on the racetrack. Chris Honeycutt is going to walk away to see how this deal will elect to restart with Bobby Labonte picking high. Jonathan Brown, Brandon Ward, they're going to elect the bottom, while Burt Myers will be behind that of Bobby Labonte, who again did not stop on caution. .40 laps still to go here in the Kenny. Our chief JB Cole offers up the 1 to go signal. It's been a wild race so far. Multiple cautions, a number of cars taken out of this race due to accidents. We had a red flag due to a timing and scoring snafu. A red flag that was extended due to a repair that had to be made in turn number 2. But we are now set and ready for how the rest of this race will unfold. Pretty much all the lead lap cars, except for Bobby Labonte, the leader, put on a right rear tire on this last round. Labonte could hold them off. The Jonathan Brown got jacked up a little bit there as they came back to the restart. Cost him some time, and now he's trying to charge up to second on the outside. Labonte holds the lead, but for how long? Jonathan Brown down to the bottom will try to take the lead away out of 2. Brown through with him as they come out of 4. Jonathan Brown back to the point. Burt Myers trying to come through for second. Job. Brandon Ward trying to inside as well. Draws even with Labonte. Now walks up the racetrack by about a quarter of a car length. And will clear Labonte out of 2. Grosser trying to follow the train through on the Callaway winner Caleb Petty coming up as well. Of Labonte while Brandon Ward tries up Burt Myers. These two are virtually inseparable over the last year of racing action, whether it be on the tour or in other racing venues. They now run side by side for second. Brandon Ward having the edge. Mercer's going to try to follow 2 scores that come out of 2 and I know for 3 and 4. Hurst was able to put the pedal down and make some ground on the second place runner. In fact, he's even with Burt Myers trying to close to Brandon Ward, who is up the ground for the lead. Oh, the field is up. Brandon Ward is there, and Gerster's 30 laps to go. Ward has a inside. Able to keep it straight. Ward had a run to the inside, but Brown tried to slam the door, and it almost ended in disaster. Now try to regroup. Meanwhile, Bobby Labonte has fallen outside of the top 10. He's running 11. Another dive inside. Gets Brown up off the bottom. Side by side to the lead of the front stretch. Brandon Ward inside. Jonathan Brown is in 3. Boy, Brown's able to keep that ball up on the top and holds the lead at the line that time through. One great by side for multiple laps, and Brown is able to fend off Brandon Ward for now. Last time by, Jonathan Brown ran his fastest lap of the race. Boy, was he motivated to hold on to that lead. A little bit of lap traffic on the front of the lead. Ryan Thought for sure something might have happened to Gerster that time as he got way out of control off the two. And now into the backside of Jonathan Brown with a pushing him down the front stretch. Ward wants to go for the start in Franklin County. And a Kenny Minter Classic trophy on the line. Ward sets up. They got a straightaway advantage over the fight for third. Together, holds Kingsburg trying to close it. Myers fifth. More lap cars up in front of the lead as they make their way to turn 3. And again, close it quickly up to the backside of Jonathan Brown, who's held since the restart. Tommy Neal down low. Greg Butcher up top. Side by side off the corner. Ward gets turned down to the bottom. Oh no! Ward climbs the top of Butcher and spins. Brandon Ward was doing everything he possibly could to try to wrestle the lead away from Brandon Brown, and he climbs over the right rear, or I should say the left rear tire of Greg Butcher's car and spins out of second place. Ward is going to be able to continue on and rejoin the tail end of the pack. But with no fresh tires left to bolt on that car, he is going to be at a serious disadvantage. And he was going for it. They came out of turn number 4. Ward had a good drive off the corner, tried to duck down to the bottom. He and Jonathan Brown made some contact. They threw off their entry to turn number 1. And by the time they got it righted, it was Ward who slid up into the left rear Nerf bar and tire of the 6 of Greg Butcher. And this will slow the field now with just 16 laps to go. Now, Wood back Labonte, who has fallen back to 12th, unofficially, in fact, 11th after Brandon Ward's spin, may elect to try to come down to the pit lane, but the pits are not open this time by. Fuzzy B back on. He's going to be able to go around the autos by Nelson truck, and stage is starting similar way that it did in 2021. Jonathan Brown with a lot of defensive driving mastery at the head of the pack to be able to hold off Brandon Ward in that fight for the lead, but he's going to have some newcomers enter the fold. Jeremy Gerstner, after that car, finished second with James Savali at the wheel last season, now up to second. And while we look at the leaders work their way on the backstretch, Bobby Labonte is going to stop, and he will be one to watch from the back of the pack for sure. They're putting on that fresh Hoosier right rear.
That's what I got.
So we have 14 cars on the lead lap at the time of this restart. So Labonte's going to have to come for about the 13th or 14th spot when they re-rack the field and get set to settle the Kenny Minter Classic with 16 laps to go. Boy, with racing this good, you just don't want to wait until 11 weeks from now. June 29th at Callaway, going to be the next opportunity to see the Smart Stars, whether it be in person or on Flow Racing. And then we'll be silent again for a few weeks' time. If you want to fulfill your modified madness, Flow Racing is proud to announce just this past week they're going to be covering all of the racing events that take place at Bowman Gray Stadium in 2022. Where you will be able to see a lot of these drivers and teams compete, hope to be the modified title at the Madhouse. Citrus 8 Choose Cone is back out. And one of the most important restarts of the day is upcoming, and I think the outside lane may be the way to go. Up to the Citrus 8 Choose Cone, and Jonathan Brown will select the outside, Jeremy Gerstner inside. Brown will be the leader. Gerstner third. Jason Myers, this racetrack running in fifth, will be along Callaway with Petty as your front three rows. We may have waited quite some time, but I think the finish of this one is going to be well worth the wait. Jonathan Brown and Jeremy Gerstner, two drivers with new teams in 2022, desperately trying to show that the decision to offer up these options have Gerstner trying to keep it down on the bottom, and we got a caution, got a car hard in turns 1 and 2. Caleb Petty has hit the wall hard after restarting on the outside of the third row, and it will slow this field yet again.
Safety, you clear after the 01. You clear after the 01, you go all the way up.
Petty up there for that Tommy Baldwin racing team. We told the story a little short while ago that team has been very busy in terms of all forms of modified racing action. The team grabbed a win at Thompson last night in the open modified contest with Mike Christopher Jr. And a lot of those same wrenchmen worked their way down south here to be a part of this operation to see if they can help Caleb Petty get his second win of the season. And the good news is he is able to hop up out of the car and is okay after the impact there down in turn number 2. Boy, there's a lot to be said about this youngster out of Shelbyville, Kentucky. You probably heard the name as he began his racing career racing legend cars all throughout, won multiple legend car championships. It didn't matter what venue he was at, he was going to be a threat to this at victory lane. Got the call to have an opportunity to drive this car by virtue of a friendship with that another young racer of the Tommy Baldwin stable, Jack in legend car races, also maybe going to find a wheel of cars similar such as is what opened the door. Caleb Petty an opportunity. But didn't start off the way I would have hoped for. You crashed really hard in the season opening practice. It was so they had to pretty much rebuild the front clip. He came back out and in just 2 races time set the quick time at Florence off Bobby Labonte for his first ever tour type modified win just a little over 1 year ago. Since then, he was able to amass an incredible record. In fact, the second most consecutive top 5 finishes by a smart modified competitor. And even the races where he did not finish in the top 5, he pretty much found himself up in the top 10. This may very well be young Caleb Petty's first DNF of his smart modified career. But it was not after being able to put that 7NY up towards the front of the field, and you could pencil him in as a sure threat to potentially try to defend his title at the Callaway Speedway in about 11 weeks' time. still continues to circulate around the AutosByNelson.com page struck. We mentioned the fact that we will be in action at Callaway Speedway in about 11 weeks' time. I love the agenda and theory behind having that race on a Wednesday night. In fact, track announcer Wesley Outland chiming in saying he's very excited for the return of the Smart Modified Tour. So are we, Wesley. Can't wait to be back there after they put on a heck of a show 2 races ago. We can expect more of the same in what's a bit of a recharge opportunity for a lot of these teams who will then shift their focuses back over to Bowman Gray Stadium before we light the fuse yet again at Carteret County Speedway September 3rd. And again, full information on how to get your tickets to the next or upcoming Smart Modify races are available at smartmodtour.com. So because we did not complete a lap, we are still going to have 16 laps to go when we get set for this upcoming restart. Now, Jonathan Brown selected the outside lane the last attempt that they try to come down and restart this race. And we can expect potentially we may see the similar story unfold with Gerstner trying to fill the hole on the bottom. As Hetty's car is now en route to the Tommy Baldwin Racing trailer. Once the track is clear, we'll be set to see the Citrus Safe Choose Cone. And boy, that Choose Cone has gotten a lot of track time here today. As the sun continues to set here in Callaway, Virginia, it has been certainly a memorable second annual Kenny Minter Classic here at the Franklin County Speedway, courtesy of Moonshine Capital Promotions. And we are still 16 laps away from seeing who will be able to go home with a race that means so much to so many in the motorsports community. And you know, we'll circle back to the fact that this race is named in honor of the 1993 Smart Modified Rookie of the Year. And we saw Brandon Ward going for it, and I would imagine that there was a lot of motivation behind it. We mentioned many a times that Kenny Minter Jr., a hard-working crew member on the Randy Renfro and Joey Colton number 2. I think Brandon was trying everything he could to try to bring home that Kenny Minter Classic trophy and the Smarty Trophy for that team, for that reason and more. And the way that we've seen these races unfold wouldn't necessarily rule them out just yet, as the Citrus Safe Choose Cone is back up on the start-finish line. And we will see if Jonathan Brown will continue the trend of selecting the outside, and in fact, he will. Gerstner will go low for row 1. Bobby Meesmer elects the top lane. Burt Myers will fill the hole on the bottom.
Second longest race of the year, hour 45. Sobo is 2:16.
Field is going to come up to the 1-to-go signal this time. The outside lane has been the right lane for multiple restarts. And look who has started to enter the fold yet again. Brown, Gerstner, the front row. Burt Myers and Bobby Meesmer, row 2. Jason Myers alongside of Dennis Holdren. I don't think anybody has spent as much time on the pit lane as that 07 car has. Perhaps they've dialed it in for this last run to the finish. Restart. Brown outside the leader. Gerstner alongside to go. Who's it going to be? Gerstner that time trying to stay with Brown as they come off the corner, but Brown powers ahead. Gerstner down on the bottom and slides up to New England as they drag race down the front stretch. Gerstner trying to hold that car down. He gets real loose on the bottom, and Brown will take the lead. Rushes up the hill. Here comes Meesmer. Trying to get into the line his way further forward. And Dennis Holdren working the top side of Burt Myers for 4th. And here comes Bobby LeBon tire. Boy, Labonte is digging around the top side. Just can't quite clear Jason just yet. Gerstner got real sideways off of turn 2 that time. Had to go way down to the bottom of the racetrack to catch the car. That's going to allow Miesberg to close. That's going to allow Burt Myers to close. Dennis Holdren holding it down in the last spot in the top 5. And Bobby Labonte just cannot quite clear Jason Myers on the outside. Less than 10 laps to go. We're now in that extra distance territory with the Smart Modifieds. And Jonathan Brown is walking away. The battles continue throughout the pack. Second on back. Aldrin got a little bit checked up there at Labonte. Brian Weber down to the inside. They are just covered up. Second on back. Aldrin now kicked up off the bottom. Here comes Labonte now to 5th with 5 to go when they come back around. Shot line with 5 to go. Gerstner, a solid second. While Burt Myers and Bobby Miesberg start to go at it for 3rd. Myers going to work the inside while Labonte tries to cut low. Labonte trying to set that car up high. Myers though not able to get his car. He'll try to get in 3. Miesberg sliding off the corner. There is some lap traffic ahead of your leader, Jonathan Brown. Myers giving a shot there to me as they hit the line with 2 laps to go. See if the field can make it around to the white flag. Jonathan Brown over the pack. Will come to the white flag. Down the backstretch for the final time. And Jonathan Brown is going to back up the runner-up finish he had at South Boston a week ago to win the 2nd annual Kevin Minter Classic at Franklin County. Jonathan Brown, your winner for the first time this season, comes home in the top spot with Jeremy Gerstner 2nd, Bobby your podium. Burt Myers 4th, Bobby Labonte 5th, Dennis Holdren 6th. Jason Myers, Brian Lofton, and Gary Putnam. Your top 10 as Jonathan Brown and the Pace-O-Matic SS Racing number 22 will have the opportunity to take a ceremonial victory lap here at Franklin County.
Jonathan Brown.
And while Jonathan Brown celebrates that checkered flag and that win, that will do it for our Flow Racing portion of our coverage here at Franklin County Speedway. Be sure to check out the Flow Racing social media channels, website, and more, as well as and more to hear from our front finishers here at Franklin County. On behalf of everybody here at Flow Racing, our incredible production crew and team, I'm Eric Brennan. We'll see you all on June 29th at Callaway Speedway. Good night, everybody. All right. I got it.
Yep.